Welcome to this session of Literary Criticism, where we will be looking into Chapter 2 of Principles of Literary Criticism. In our previous session, we had looked into Chapter 1, wherein Richards had stated about the inability of critics or even artists to decipher the value of art. Let's see what Richards has to say about in this chapter titled The Phantom Aesthetic Taste. In this chapter, Richards points out that the grave defect of aesthetics has been the neglect of consideration of the value of art. The experiences that art gives rise to are valuable, and in whichever form they appear, they must be given due recognition. The experiences gained from art would depend upon the theory of value that has been adopted. Modern aesthetics surmises that there is a unique kind of mental activity present in what could be called aesthetic experience. This term was first spoken by Kant in the attempt to define the, I quote him, judgment of taste, wherein he states that there exists a special kind of pleasure which is disinterested, universal and intellectual, and not to be confused with the pleasures of sense or ordinary emotions. Modern aesthetics believes that art experience is a special kind of experience, a class of its own. This experience cannot be compared with the experiences of ordinary life. This assumption makes aesthetic pleasure sui generis, which means a unique experience or one of its kind. And this gives rise to the phantom problem of the aesthetic mode or state. Will, feeling and thought are considered to be the faculties of the soul, and all the individual capacities are expressed in terms of these three parameters. Kant mentions that the faculty of knowledge, the feeling of pleasure or displeasure, and the faculty of desire are considered the common grounds for assessing aesthetic pleasure. Understanding what constitutes judgment and reason are considered important to these three faculties. Between the faculties of knowledge and desire stands the feeling of pleasure, which is similar to the position of judgment that is placed between understanding and reason. It is in terms of this stand that Kant continued to discuss aesthetics to be relevant to judgment. Richards then moves on to discuss about the abstract entities, and then he tries to connect them to his argument. Abstract entities, according to Richards, such as the good, the beautiful and the true, are realms where truth and thought could be related, and the will and the good are intimately connected. The attempt to match beauty with feeling could be devastating. However, the echoes of such comparison are always visible in critical writings. The use of emotion by reviewers and the reference to aesthetic emotion are apparent. Therefore, some special mode of mental activity had to be found out to which beauty could belong. This gave rise to the aesthetic mode. Truth is the object of the activity of inquiry that belongs to the intellectual or theoretical part of the mind. Good belongs to the practical part, but beautiful does not belong to any of these. Any activity that is neither inquisitive nor practical is not to be practiced. The result is that the aesthetic or the contemplative activity that is defined by negative conditions alone would not make an attempt to satisfy desire. The experiences that arise in contemplating objects of art are found to be explained in practical terms that would assure success of the system of practice. Many experiences are peculiar because of the intellectual interest that is present in them and the way in which the development of desires within them takes place. These peculiarities are identified to be detachment, impersonality, serenity and others which are interesting and they have to be examined in detail. The question that still prevails is whether there exists such a thing as aesthetic state or any aesthetic character of experience which is unique. The other question is whether a certain kind of experience related to art exists and whether it is different from the other kinds of experience. It could be assessed that there are various kinds of experiences in the value of art. However, the primary question is whether one kind of experience which is different from ordinary experiences exists or not. Richards enquires whether the degree of experience obtained from remembering a mathematical calculation would be different from the degree of experience obtained from eating cherries. The differences, according to Richards, are immeasurable, of varying degree and difficult to estimate. Yet, most of the writers after Kant and many before him have agreed upon the existence of an aesthetic experience which is peculiar and specific. Richards mentions that there are two ways to identify whether a distinct aesthetic species of experience exists or not. It may be assumed that there is some special kind of mental activity involved in enjoying aesthetic experiences that is not found in any other. Psychology does not believe in such an entity. Alternatively, the aesthetic experience may not contain a particular constituent and it is ordinary. However, it appears in a special form. This special form could be described in terms of, I quote, disinterestedness, detachment, distance, impersonality, subjective universality and others, unquote. Richards argues that this special form could be an experience, a condition or an effect of communication. A structure which could be described in terms of this special form is an essential feature of the experience and value is attached to this feature. According to Richards, it is to be ascertained from where writing attains its aesthetic character and the value. The aesthetic mode is a different way of regarding things which can be understood, whether the resulting experiences are valuable or not or indifferent. He maintains that there is no such special mode, that the experience of beauty or ugliness has nothing in common and they do not share any commonality with the innumerable experiences. It would be difficult to show that many experiences differ in terms of the constituents of the experiences. Looking at a picture, reading a poem and listening to music are activities that give the same experience as dressing up in the morning or going down to the gallery. The manner in which experience is caused in each individual is different. The experience could be complex or unified, but the activities undertaken are not different. The point that Richards wants to make is that a peculiar aesthetic attitude does not exist. The task of appreciating a work of art and analyzing its effect upon those who do not accept it uncritically is undesirable. If art is envisaged to be a mysterious entity that is intimately related to the aesthetic mood, then its effect could be harmful. Let us look into the significance of this essay. Richards mentions that impulses are those stimuli that motivate attitudes in individuals and the attitude depends on the activities or the tendencies of the action. This psychological theory is used by Richards in relation to criticism and the defense of poetic creation. According to Richards, poetry organizes impulses and attitudes. It organizes our mind, gives it certain order, renders us happy and makes our mind healthy. Negative and frustrated states of mind reduce the value of a state of mind. Art in general is valuable because it integrates activities, resolves mental conflicts and tension, and leads to a liberated state. Richards names this harmonized state, which is a balancing of conflicting impulses, to be synesthesis. It is also a heightened state of all the senses responding simultaneously to experience. In the experience of synesthesis, there lies a sense of detachment that is conducive to the formation of a harmonious personality. Let us look into some of the important points that we have done so far this session. The estimation of the value of art is one area that has been ignored by critics. The experience of art should be given importance. Modern aesthetics argues that there is a special kind of mental activity called aesthetic experience, which is quite different from ordinary experience. The German philosopher Immanuel Kant first mentioned the special kind of aesthetic experience related to art, which is supposed to contain the qualities of being disinterested, universal and unintellectual, and it is different from ordinary experiences. Richards, however, disagrees with the views of Kant and the other critics who argue for the presence of this distinct aesthetic experience of art. Richards mentions that psychology does not endorse this view. The aesthetic experience appears in a special form that could be described in terms of disinterestedness, detachment, distance, impersonality, subjective universality, among others. Richards contends that this special form could be an experience, a condition, or an effect of communication. A construction which could be described in terms of this special form is an essential feature of the experience and value that is attached to this feature. Richards emphasizes that a particular aesthetic attitude does not exist. Art, which is visualized to be an unexplained entity closely related to the aesthetic mood, would be harmful in the effect it produces. We have so far seen what Richards had to tell us about the aesthetic value as well as the phantom aesthetic state. We have questions for you to answer that would help you understand this chapter better. Until we meet the next session with further ideas on what Richards has to say about art, the value of art and communication, this is me saying thank you.